Taking a non-league club to Champions League glory. That's the ultimate football manager dream, and today I'm taking on that epic challenge with Altrincham FC, the closest club to my beloved Manchester United in the Europa Leagues. Right now, they rank as the 9th best side in Greater Manchester, but our goal is to turn them into the best. I've set up a progress tracker so we can follow our journey as we climb through the leagues. But here's the twist. My girlfriend has made my tactic and it's absolutely wild. Will it work or will it be total chaos? Well, today we are taking on that journey and you guys can watch along with me. I'll be teaching you the scouting methods I used and how to build a squad from the non-leagues of England to Champions League winners. Now let's start off with the tactic. It's absolutely mental. It's a 3-2-3-2, but it gets even more mental as we actually build up in a 2-1-2-3-2 and we are a non-league side. My partner fell in love with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer ball, which was all out attack and vibes, and I think that's what she wants us to do here. Now I have added extra little instructions to make it not impossible to do anything in this tactic. So on our ball playing defenders on the right and the left, they are on stay wider. We have got a libero in the middle of the centre backs. As I said, she wanted us to build out. I don't think she realises a non-league this is impossible, but it makes the challenge even more difficult. And we are going to win the Champions League using this exact tactic. And it's all going to be down to the squad building we do. Now, just in front of them, the two midfielders we've got, centre mids, not DMs, is a ball winner on support and a deep lying playmaker on support. We have two wingers on support, creating the width, an attacking midfielder in hold position, being that creative outlet in the cam role, and two strikers that are being aggressive up front. As I said, I have pretty much done all of this bit myself. I've tried to be as non-league as I can. We are going to play out defence because we haven't got any wing backs, and if we pump it long, we're going to get killed on the counter-attack. Slightly shorter in passing directness and slightly higher in the tempo. Be more disciplined, low crosses. Transition, we are countering but not counter-pressing. We need as many people to get back as quick as possible. Hence why we are playing a much higher defensive line, but a mid-block, so we're keeping it nice and compact. And we are trapping them inside, getting stuck in, and trigger and press more often. Now, this tactic is going to be basically impossible to use because we also only have 3 centre-backs, and one of them is a 1-star in Cooper. I mean, down at this level in non-league football, stars basically mean absolutely nothing. I mean, Reddin is our best winger here. He is very quick, but 10 pace, a very good acceleration, but he gets to a slow pace quickly. Dribbling is decent, determination is decent. At just 19 years of age is good to see. Ollie Crankshaw is our left winger, Alex Newby in cam, Isaac Marriott and Elliot Osborne in midfield, and then our strikers are both on loan. Which is an absolute nightmare. We have Joe Nuttall and Jake Bickerstaff. Both of them fairly quick, both of them decent at finishing. We're not going to have them next season, and believe it or not, Altrincham aren't tipped to win the league this year. In fact, we are predicted 14th, and that's using a 4-4-2 formation. I don't know if the league realises we're using a 2-1-2-3-2. So yeah, it's going to be difficult. Now, in terms of the club itself, we do not produce many youth players whatsoever. We are a 3.5-star silver youth recruitment. We are a 1-star gold facilities in youth and a 1.5-star training facilities as well. A 1.5-star reputation club. So we are a small little club, the 9th best club in Greater Manchester. And by the end of the video, we're going to be in Premier League football and one of the biggest clubs in the world. But without further ado, let's get into our first season with no transfers being allowed in the Vanarama National League. In real life, Altrincham sit in the playoff places currently. Can we match that in this first season? Well, as predicted, the tactic was completely and utterly mental. Our biggest victory of the season came in a home game against Southend United, where we beat them 7-1, and you can see there the libero doing his job, stepping in and creating that chance there. Long balls over the top for the strikers to get onto, eventually setting back the cams. Absolutely fantastic, and this game pretty much showed exactly what this tactic is all about. The cams sending it out to the wingers, drilling in balls to the strikers, and them finishing their chances. But due to the formation we're playing, there was also some mental losses, including a 6-3 loss to the Wheelstone Raider. And overall, the amount of goals that were scored in our games was absolutely ridiculous. I mean, you can't say we weren't an entertaining side to watch. And it did get us all the way into the playoffs, into the first round of the playoffs, as we finished in 4th position, where we faced up against Southend, a team that we have just shown you we beat 7-1. And in this game, we aren't going to beat them 7-1. In fact, we're going to go 1-0 down. We're going to equalise through our lone striker, Nuttall, and then for the rest of the game, get absolutely battered and lose 3-1, just showing that in this rebuild, the tactic we are using is not going to help us in the slightest. So if we are going to take Altrincham to the Champions League winners, it is all going to be through squad building and scouting. So this really is going to be one of the hardest non-league challenges you will ever see. So as mentioned, 4th place in the league, 5 points away from Yeovil, with Woking and York City getting promoted. Rochdale finishing down in 6th place and Oldham in 14th place means we are technically the 7th best club in Manchester now, but we're not going to put that through just yet. But the big issue we have got is our 2 strikers were on loan. Jake Bickerstaff grabbed 30 goals, Joe Nuttall grabbed 29 goals, and if you did see from the data hub we showed you earlier, we scored 2.81 goals a game, which is fantastic, but conceded 2.23 goals per game. As mentioned, we are very enjoyable to watch. We scored 132 goals this season, but in terms of goals conceded, it was completely ridiculous. 105, finishing 4th in the table, but conceding the most goals in the entire league. We do seem to have a bit of a hidden gem come through the youth academy. We have Chris Tompkins here, and I have clicked it so that if there was any players that were non-playable, they will be available at the start. Hence, we have a very decent young central attack midfielder in Chris Tompkins come through at the start of the season. 15 goals and 11 assists and 39 games is fantastic for a 16-year-old, and he has a little bit of value to him as well, which is going to be very important because financially things aren't great. We have 50k in the bank, and as mentioned, our 2 strikers that just grabbed 62 goals each and 26 assists between them are both leaving the club because they are on loan. And we don't have any other strikers here other than Regan Linney, who scored 5 goals all season. So the rebuild is going to pretty much start straight away. And as you can see from this starting 11, the team is incredibly different straight away. What you can also probably tell is a lot of these players are from the Manchester United and Manchester City academies. And that's because when scouting players, we were looking at homegrown players that were at Manchester United or Manchester City to bring them in, as we really look to make a Manchester-born club. Other than that, our scouting was very simple. Head into players that are expiring in contract in the next month or 3 months or have expired and they have played games in the Premier League. Now, of course, right now, that is no one because we're on the 22nd of July. But every single player we have signed is either from the Premier League or from the Championship, and they have been brought in on free contracts. So you can see here, Ruben Curley joining the club, and then Billy Terrell, Paul Affia, Josh Adam, Ben Hammond, Raquel Jeffers, and Chris Merry coming on free contracts. And my only signing was Damani Mella for £6,000 from Macclesfield. Now, Macclesfield are not a actual non-league club at this point, so £6,000 going to them. This guy, when coming up through the United Academy, was absolutely fantastic. I thought he was going to be a much better player than he is looking like in real life, but at just 23 years of age, as a leading Vanarama national striker, can we take Damani Mella up the leagues with us? And as mentioned, through the tactic, we have brought in a lot of players that are from either United or City, just like Josh Adam here in the cam role, who looks like a fantastic central attacking midfielder. We also have Ruben Curley, who in real life has moved on to Stoke on a permanent deal, but we have signed here at Altrincham in the non-league. We have a brand new goalkeeper in Billy Terrell, to be honest, the best available in class. And our new libero is Paul Affia. Now, what I was really looking for in this libero role was someone that could pass, and 9 passing, believe it or not, was as good as we could get. He does also have fantastic speed, so if caught in that DM role and needing to get back, he is going to be available to do that. Now, of course, we cannot change this tactic. We are locked in to the 3-2-3-2, and the Vanarama National League predicts that we are going to come in 9th place. Now, last season, we were down in 14th. The signings we have made have obviously impressed the media, so let's see if we can get up into the leagues of England. Well, the £6,000 we spent on Damani Mella looks more and more worth it every single day. The striker had electric speed and finishing ability and was also a danger as a fox in the box, and finished the season out with 29 goals and 12 assists in just 39 games. Our other striker was Rocleon Jeffers, brought in from Stoke City because of his decent speed but also his determination. He scored 23 goals in 12 assists. And while again there was more mental games in league football, 6-4s, 5-4s, 5-2s, 5-0s, and also some defeats in there like 5-2s, etc., we were a much better team this season and ended up as champions of the Vanarama National League on 88 points, 26 wins, 10 draws and 10 losses. And one of my favourite things of this all is Rochdale are coming up with us, finishing in third place. They've got 82 points, meaning a Manchester club is joining us in League 2. Sad little Oldham managed to finish in fourth place, but haven't quite joined us. So we are jumping to the 7th best club in the Greater Manchester mini table we have created. But as mentioned, financially, things are pretty rough. And when building a squad purely based off free agents, you end up spending a little bit more money than you need to, and it is hurting. We are negative £185,000 in overall balance. And to be fair, that is with our salary per annum being down in 14th place. I mean, Oldham Athletic on 1.66 million per annum are spending £600,000 a year more on wages, and we are spending $1 million, and we are just not getting the gate receipts to keep up. Now, overall, it is quite difficult to keep a team together in non-league football, so going up to League 2 is going to be massive. You can see here we've already got 11 people potentially leaving the club as their contracts look to run out, and that is a lot of our backups and rotational players, as well as Isaac Marriott and Ollie Crankshaw, who is one of the better players in this season. Our best player this season was Damani Mella on a 7.34, but Ollie Crankshaw did grab a 7.26 and 30 goal contributions. Josh Adam grabbing 28 is brilliant as well. And Gihil Redding, a player we mentioned from the start, 16 assists, 6 goals, and is progressing into a very decent winger. But League 2 is an entirely different beast with some massive clubs just like Salford City who we are looking to chase down. So let's get on to our scouting. And again, this is exactly how we are looking to make our signings, having it so players' contracts who are expiring in the Premier League, who are between 15 and 32, I'm going to literally offer a trial to every single player in this list. As they come in, as I will show you, we are going to get rid of a couple of them because they're not going to be good enough. So instantly, some of these players like Kyle McAdam probably isn't going to be good enough as a player. I would recommend, though, giving them all the 2 weeks on trial so we can actually see their stats, because after 2 weeks you can pretty much see every single stat for every single player. We are seeing here a lot of high potential players. Someone like Mikel Barnes looks really good. Again though, don't just go off of star rating. Actually look at players like Jamie McDonald. Here is a very good midfielder. Temple Okinjana doesn't quite look as good in his stats so far. You can see technically a very poor player, but if I was just going off this, he is actually one of the best players in this. So give it the 2 weeks and then look into their stats and look at what you need in your team. If you've got a ball midfielder that you need to finish in his position, but he's got 1 marking, 3 tackling and 2 work rate, he might be really good at passing the ball. His ability stats might look like 3.5, 4 star, but he doesn't suit your system. And when money is so tight, like it is here in non-league / League 2, you can't be making them mistakes, especially when we're using a 3-2-3-2 tactic. And this is the team that we have ended up with. My favourite signing this season is Oisin McKenty, coming in from Newcastle on a free contract. This guy is really good as a centre-back, but can also play in DM and central midfield. So as our libero on defend, has the passing ability, the tackling, the marking, the heading, and the recovery speed, while being 6'4", good teamwork, good determination, consistent, and good in big matches. He is the perfect libero. To come into one of the midfield positions, I have brought in Toby Collier. This guy is quite literally getting minutes for Manchester United in real life, and FM rates him not very highly in the slightest. But he is a good National League player, has League One potential, is already wanted by clubs like Barnet, Hartlepool, Kidderminster, Accrington Stanley and Maidenhead on loan. And I'm here today to show that star ratings mean nothing, because Toby Collier is coming with me to the Premier League with Altrincham. My next signing, and probably one of my favourite ones, is David McGoldrick. He is an absolute bagsman. Whatever pace he has got, this guy can score goals. Now, he can also sit in the hole as that attacking midfielder. At 37 years of age, on just £700 a week, it seems like a very smart piece of business. And the final player I want to touch on is Chris Merry. This is exactly what I'm on about when talking about signing players for your system. Chris Merry is an out-and-out ball-winning midfielder. Good marking, passing, tackling, teamwork, and work rate, is consistent, 5'10", a little nippy player, and get in, win the ball, and give it to the more creative players. And due to them signings, actually in the League 2, we are predicted to finish 18th and not get relegated, which is a complete and utter shock to me. But obviously we are using a mental tactic, and this time around, we are one of the worst teams in the league. And I'm not changing this tactic. I have spoken to the missus. She has said in no circumstances am I to change away from this system. So, yeah, let's see what we can do in League 2. Now, I don't want to give my partner too much credit, but genuinely, she might have made a tactic which breaks Football Manager. And I also don't want to say that making a tactic on FM is very easy, but genuinely, my partner has zero knowledge of Football Manager in the slightest. She told me to play a 3-2-3-2. And the things we are doing with this tactic are simply not normal. The signings we are making are doing bits, but genuinely, I think the tactic we have made here is causing issues in the Football Manager match engine. As we win this game against Leyton Orient, it was one of many, many games we won in League 2 using this system, scoring a whole bunch of goals with the complete mindset of just outscore the opposition. That is why, once again, we have scored the most goals in our league, scoring 103 and finishing in 22nd place with goals conceded on 86. We are simply outscoring opposition. And I genuinely cannot believe it has worked to get us back-to-back promotions heading into League 1, where Altrincham have got 87 points, joint second in the table with York City, with Colchester United winning it on 96. Rochdale almost followed us up as they got into the playoffs on 82 points, nearly joining us. So we are now flat out actually the 6th best team. Oh no, we're not. We are still the 7th best team, unless South would have been relegated, which they haven't. So we are still the 7th best team in Greater Manchester. But I can't believe we are now in League 1 after just 3 seasons using this absolute mess of a tactic which actually works. Now, this season was a little bit weird with our goal scorers. Rickley and Jeffers grabbed 20, got 10 assists, while David Fisher, who was our backup striker, also scored 20 goals and got 4 assists. Damani Miller grabbed 17. But from there, the goals were actually quite evenly spread. Josh Adam grabbing 6, Ollie Cranshaw grabbing 7, Paul Affia grabbed 7 from centre-back, Gahil Redding 6 but 13 assists. Chris Merry, as that ball midfielder, winning the ball high, got 11 assists. Toby Collier was our second best performer, 4 goals, 9 assists, and is progressing a little bit. I mean, I've not really managed to get anywhere in terms of improving the training facilities, youth facilities, and youth recruitment, which is difficult because obviously we need these to improve to actually improve our players, which isn't happening at the moment. And I don't know how much we're going to be able to actually grow these. Whenever I've done non-league to Champions League winners before, it has never really gone well in terms of improving these. We normally win the Premier League as a 3.5-star reputation side with 2-star training facilities, still silver youth recruitment, and next to no youth facilities. I hope this one is going to be different, and I am asking every single season to improve these to the club vision and to the board, and they're just ignoring me every single time. In terms of scouting, I am not going to change our tactic up too much. I am now adding in people who have youth appearances into my requirements. Now, in terms of doing this, I won't just go and scout every single person who has youth appearances. I will normally set it so, say they are expiring in the next month, as we are currently looking at. I will then sort it via nation go nation to nation and look through the players that are there. Now, there are certain nations which there isn't much point in scouting players from. I mean, for example, Bermuda, no disrespect to Bermudans. Gibraltar, no disrespect to them. But if you have a youth appearance for England, I'm probably interested in seeing what you're like. For Australia, yeah, I'm interested. Ireland, certainly. Northern Ireland, certainly. Especially the fact that we're still in League One. We don't exactly have the pull to be out there and go and grab a Belgian youth player who is 17 and no one's heard of just yet. We are going to get into that sort of scouting, but potentially later down the line. And once again, using them exact tactics, this is the side we have built. We are starting to get into territory now where regens are starting to come through, and this is our first regen signing in Nicky Rains, released from Manchester United. I've signed him because he is very, very fast, and as a right winger, that is pretty much all I need them to do. And to be honest, he was one of just 3 signings this season. We've also brought in Marley Lowele, who is a New Zealand Youth Appearance International. That is exactly how I found him. He is high consistency and a very good either-footed centre-back at just 19 years of age. And our other signing is Jude Russell, another centre-back coming in, looking to try and tighten up our defensive line, even if there is just 2 of them, technically. He is high consistency, right-footed, great speed on him, good determination, and very good in his 3 key defensive stats like heading, marking, and tackling. And we've actually already had our first game of the season, and it was up against Salford. We did go 1-0 down, but this Altrincham side have solidified themselves as the 7th best side in this greater Manchester region, as Jeffers scores to make it 1-1, and in the 89th minute Reading whips it in. Eventually Curley gets it down, beats his man, and finishes home to make it 2-1. I'm actually incorrect there, I believe. We are now the 6th best side because we have beaten Salford. And actually that is incorrect because Stockport County have been relegated to League 2. So we are actually the 5th best side now in Greater Manchester, and in our league this season is the mighty Bolton Wanderers, who are predicted to come 2nd, and Wigan Athletic, who are predicted to come 11th. So we could potentially go to the 3rd best side in Greater Manchester, and then we have the ginormous task of overtaking Manchester United and Manchester City. And that could take a lot longer than it's taken us to go from 9th to potentially, by the end of the season, the 3rd best team in Greater Manchester. And well, when you look at our season preview, that's probably not going to happen as we are placed 24th. But let's see if we can upset the odds once again. And I'll be honest, the odds weren't quite as upset this season as they have been in recent years. We were a classic mid-table League One side, sitting in 10th place, 6 points away from playoff places, but a whole 22 away from the relegation zone. So that's a very successful first season, but obviously there's no promotion, there's no playoffs, there's no singing, there's no dancing. But the top goal scorers in the whole league, I will certainly take that. One thing I will say for my partner is she has picked a very attractive way of playing football. At least the fans are having fun every single time. Now, this save file and the tactic are going to be available to the legends that support me over on Patreon. There is over 1,700 people now subscribed to the Patreon, whether it's free members or paid members. And if you want to join the Kempi army, we're going very strong. Help me support over there. Patreon link is down below. You get yourself this tactic, which is mental and so fun to play with, and a fantastic rebuild file at the end of it as well. I'm going to give you the starting file, so you have the up-to-date transfers, etc. The file where we get to the end of the Premier League, and also the file where we have won the Champions League. Now, this season, our star man was a man that I would love to be the star man. It was Damani Mellor. He is now worth £4.2 million. He is a League One striker, and he has just grabbed 38 goal contributions in 44 games. He now has 63 goals in 112 league appearances for Altrincham, and is starting to go down as a club legend. Again, one of our best performers this season on a 7.01 was Toby Collier. 12 goal contributions, 43 games. Toby has found his club at Manchester where he can progress into a star. And our second top goal scorer was again our backup striker, David Fisher, who grabbed 24 goals in just 23 games. He is the perfect striker to bring off the bench because he's consistent, he likes big matches, he's decently paced and has good finishing. So when defences are run ragged from our two other strikers just constantly running in behind, we bring on David and he just finishes them off. Now, financially, we are really struggling. We have £5,000 in the bank, not transfer budget. That is our actual bank balance here at Altrincham. And we have gone down as far as £1 million in negatives recently. The money in League One, League Two and National League isn't a lot. And we are really struggling. And as we've seen, we are the lowest spenders in the entire league. We don't have a lot of debt. It's £1.6 million, but that quickly adds up when we are needing to clear our debt every single season. And I'm not actually quite sure if a club like Altrincham can keep this up because we are making £18,000 profit a month and we are spending £43,000 in wage budgets alone a month. Which means, sadly, I think we need to potentially sell some of our stars. If we can get £4 million for Damani Mella, it's for the greater good. Cahill Reddin, 2.5. Josh Adam, 900k. Toby Collier, I don't want to do that, 900k. Ben Hammond, 300k. Chris Tompkins, who has been with us through our academy, we could potentially sell for £1 million. While he is very good in a few stats, he is incredibly slow and he can pretty much just dictate the game from that cam or deep line play and make a position. Oh my God, that was hard to say. But I'm not sure he's going to be someone we really want to keep long term. If we can get £1 million for him, I would certainly take that. So this season, we are looking into selling some of our stars, which I guess is the sad reality of being a non-league club. Now, we did manage to sell a couple of players, but with the offers we were getting weren't quite enough for some of our stars. So we have sold Ruben Curley for 200 grand. And Jude Russell has left the club for £60,000 as well. He was actually a really good centre-back for us, but 60k is 60k. That's triple we get a month normally. And it meant we just had to carry on bringing in the young players that haven't quite made it in Premier League or Championship football. So number one is a very decent midfielder in George Urphy. Really well-rounded. This means nothing to me. 2.5-star National League player, not at all. This guy is incredibly well-rounded, either-footed, great determination. I think he could be our star cam. Next up is Javon Beattie. Again, not looking at that at all. 2-star. Disagree. He's very consistent, good finishing, good composure, great determination and great speed. Max Taylor was up next as a decent backup centre-back. Daniel Aguru joining from the Manchester City Academy, again as another decent rotational striker. And our penultimate signing is a star one. It's Lewis Macari coming in to be the best centre-back we have here at the club, who can play in the libero roles or as our right side centre-back with great speed, great mentals, good defensively and a good ball playing ability. But my final one, and one that I'm most excited for as a Manchester United fan, is to have a midfield of Ethan Galbraith and Toby Collier. This guy went into the Salford system, ended up joining Leyton Orient. In this save has gone on to Glentoran in Northern Ireland, where he has made 2 caps now. So we have a Northern Irish international. Again, incredibly well-rounded, similar to George Urphy in that way. He is costing us £2,500 a week and is on a 2-year deal, but a fantastic player that if does really well, that value is going to absolutely skyrocket. As you can see now, the team is looking with still Billy Terrell in goal, not progressing a lot, but again, that's due to our training facilities. A back three of Afia and Luele making up the 2 wide centre-backs with Lewis Macari as the libero in the middle. Galbraith and Collier in that midfield role with Adiokin on the left wing with that great pace, with Nicky Rains on the right wing also with great pace. Josh Adam currently as my starting cam, as he is progressing really well, with Damani Mella and Reddin keeping that striking partnership up front. Damani Mella is sort of defying physics at this point. He only has 11 finishing, 9 composure, 14 pace and 14 acceleration is really good, but I would never expect him to be grabbing the goals he is in League One now, and he is, and he's absolutely smashing it. So it's great to see. And Cahill Redding, a very similar player, but not quite as fast. Obviously, that's why he's not quite getting the goals he is there. David Fisher and Aguru as our backups. Beattie, Berry, Jeffers, Urphy, Tompkins, Hemingway, Hammond, Max Taylor and Eli Harrison as the backup goalkeeper. Another there, United Youth Academy player that we have picked up on the free contract over the years. The development centre is bringing through absolutely nothing. In terms of our club info, we aren't really able to improve anything. I'm asking time and time again, but when financially you are in £300,000 in debt after a month where I just showed you a 5k in the positive, there's big issues at the club, and we can't really afford to be improving them bits. Once again, we are predicted relegation down at 350 to 1, but let's see if we can upset the odds and get promoted to the Championship. Once again, mid-table in League One is where we find ourselves. 9th place, ahead of Bolton, ahead of Wigan, ahead of Salford, and doing fairly well. Still technically now, I guess, third best, but we're not going to class as that just yet. We need to get promoted to the Championship to be that third base side. As you can see from our board expectation, we are just expected to fight bravely against relegation. As you can see from our league position, we are doing a lot better than that. We just can't keep the ball at the back of the net. I will completely blame the misses for that. 2 goals conceded the game is horrendous, and it's just not quite going our way with that. Goal scoring wise as well, we have sort of fallen off a cliff. I think Damani Miller, Reclayon Jeffers and David Fisher have all sort of hit their cap now in terms of goals, and aren't going to progress much further than this. Once again, Toby Collier being our standout player is great to see, but I think we are in dire need of some new blood into this team. And because of our financial position, that can only really mean in terms of we need to sell some players to get us there. We are still over £1 million in debt. We have £200,000 in wage budget. Not in wage budget, in overall balance. And our wage budget we're on the right cusp of it. We have £1,000 left to spend. So sadly, some of these big players here, like Toby Collier worth £5 million, Reddin worth 2.5, George Murphy now worth 2, might have to be sold. And once again, we didn't get any offers, which even tempted me. We were getting offers of like 200 grand for Collier, who is our best player and worth nearly 5 million. Something a football manager maybe need to look into for, I guess, FM26 now is financials here in League One. We can now see clubs like Birmingham spend £10 million. Can we have that here? And some people buy our star players because we need to raise some money. But anyway, onwards and upwards. I said it was time for new blood. And Ethan Wheatley, also a Manchester United Youth Academy graduate, is joining the club. And I am excited. This guy is 12 finishing, 8 composure, but good speed and 16 determination while being 6'1". He fits the bill as a very meta football manager player, especially down in League One. Up next is a very exciting signing in Nura Fibarishima, joining from Chelsea, where I am training him to be a central attacking midfielder. As that attacking midfielder on support, I think this guy has all the key attributes. He doesn't have the long shots, but dribbling, first touch, passing, technique, vision, flair, off the ball decisions, composure, anticipation, and agility, all above 10, while being consistent at just 19 years of age. I think we might have an absolute star here. And there is some other signings here as well. Asher Agimbone has joined from Crystal Palace as a electric speed left winger. We have Jack Lancaster joining as a great right winger as well. At 28 years of age, has some key League One experience. Nathaniel Boot is up next, a Welshman signed as a 3-star prospect but 5-star potential at 22 years of age. John Swift has joined the club as some more experienced in that cam role, as we are really looking to build a mix between experience and youth academy, as he looks to be one of the better cams in this team. And Daniel Jefferson joins as another backup striker, not having the ability at just 2-star, but with good finishing, composure and speed. This guy can certainly add something to our bench. And tactically, this is now what we look like, and I absolutely love it because it is just full of Manchester United Youth Academy players. Wheatley and Mellor up front, Galbraith and Collier in midfield. I mean, it's brilliant to see. I mean, even Nicky Raines is technically a Manchester United Youth Academy player. We have John Swift and Lancaster making up the other 2 attacking positions. We have Luele, Afia, Makari and Terrell making up the defence. We really are struggling financially. We need to get promoted this season, or it is going to be the point where we have to take the 200k at this point for Toby Collier, because we are so financially muddied, and these players are starting to ask for more money wage-wise as well. I mean, someone like Ethan Wheatley is now on £1,500 after just having a ridiculous contract at Middlesbrough and Manchester United. We can't afford that anymore. That is the most expensive we can go, and I'm being serious. And once again, it was a completely mental season. But our biggest result this season was a 6-3 victory over Bolton Wanderers. And you can see many, many more big victories, but also just outrageously stupid draws and losses this season. And somehow, some way, that has got us all the way to finishing third in the league and having playoff football. And we beat Fleetwood 1-0 in the first leg for a 2-2 in the second leg. And it looks closer than it was because Fleetwood scored in the 90th minute. So we are in the playoff final. We were facing Derby County, who had just knocked out Bolton Wanderers. So if we win this game, we are officially the third best club in Greater Manchester. And the first goal in this game is going to come from Altrincham as Damani Miller gets down the left-hand side to find Youth Academy graduate Chris Tompkins in the middle to score at Wembley for his hometown club to make it 1-0. Right there is exactly the football we are looking to play. Give it to our playmaker, pump it long, and let Ethan Wheatley score a second in this game. Derby County are going to grab a goal of their own, and you can just see how hard this is defensively to stop teams as Micah Birov scores. But that is their only goal of this game, and Altrincham are going to the Championship using the 3-2-3-2 system, starting players majoritarily born in the Manchester region. We have built Altrincham to a Championship side. Now, this might not seem a lot, but when we are so financially ruined in terms of having £1.4 million in debt just a month ago, we've also now a £20 million net debt because the club have decided we are building a brand new stadium, which isn't quite built yet, but putting a lot of debt on the club, while also being the second lowest spenders in League One on 2.49 million. It's just mental we have got promoted. We did score 128 goals this season in 49 games. Absolutely mental. And still managed to get promoted, even though we conceded 92 goals in 22nd place. It is just an absolutely mental tactic, which also holds a lot of the ball, scores a lot of goals, and is just so entertaining. I mean, 2.61 goals scored per game, conceding 1.88. As the average viewer, you are going to see 4 goals a game watching this absolute monstrosity of a tactic with lots and lots of goals scoring. Ethan Wheatley grabbed 30, Damani Miller grabbed 25, Dan Jefferson 15, George Urphy 10, Jack Lancaster 10, Nicky Rains 21 assists. And sadly, this absolute legend has retired already in John Swift, but he was great this season with a 7.09 average rating, 21 games, 7 goals and 5 assists. Overall, I've got no idea what this means for this club. We do now have £25,000 in wage budget, £200,000 in transfer budget, but financially I am so worried. We are £20 million in debt because we're building a brand new stadium and only £800,000 in the balance. We could very well have got too high up too quickly. I mean, the growth on this graph is just absolutely mental. From being a Vanarama National League side to in 2017 being a Northern Premier League side to now in 2029 being a true Championship side. This season, once again, like a lot of the others, saw a bunch of free agents join us, and still our only real scouting method that I have used to get us to this point has been players which have played in the Premier League before, have youth appearances, have trained at either United or Manchester City, and is available on a free contract. That is about as far as our methods have gone, and we are now in the Championship in 6 seasons. And of course, this is the team that we are going into our Championship season with. It is Ethan Wheatley up front with Ronnie Stutter. And he has replaced someone dear to my heart. Damani Miller has left Altrincham after getting us to the Championship. He wanted £7,000 a week, and despite scoring 20 odd goals last season, I couldn't justify it, considering someone like Ronnie Stutter is on just 2.8 thousand, and comparing stats is a much better player. So sadly, we have to move on from that lovely journey and leave Damani Miller behind. But the team we have still got is Nicky Rains in the right wing role, George Urphy in the cam role, and Agambone on the left. In DM, we have brand new Norwegian defensive midfielder released from West Brom in Edvard Pettersson, who looks like a fantastic ball player next to the legend that is Toby Collier. Our defensive three is Lakale Samuel, signed from Manchester City, and we can see now we are getting some real superstars. Being through the City Academy is brilliant on the ball with 15 passing, great first touch, but defensively 14 heading, 12 marking and 16 tackling, while having decent speed and good determination is an outrageous signing. Lewis Macari is our right-sided centre-back, and almost the perfect libero in Luke O'Neill, joining from Sunderland. He can play centre mid, he can play DM, but he is going to be our libero in this tactic. And still in goal from non-league to now the Championship, it's Billy Terrell. We are, of course, going to get absolutely battered this season in the Championship. We are expected to fight bravely against relegation. We haven't touched on the FA Cup and Carabao Cup once in this entire rebuild because every single time we have not won it. It's the same for like the Papa John's trophy and the Isuzu trophies. We didn't win them, and to be honest, they're completely pointless looking into. I will now tell you if there's anything decent to talk about in the FA Cup or the Carabao Cup. I'm just not hopeful that that's going to be the case, given we often turn up and there's like 9 goals, and if we're away from home we normally lose them. But let's see what we could do for our first season and the 7th season in this rebuild in the Championship. Well, the form was it was rough. We conceded a lot of goals this season. We didn't score quite as many as we used to, and in the first half of the season we found ourselves really struggling. In the second half, things picked up ever so slightly with a win in January and a win in February. And actually in March, a win, 2 draws and 2 losses, but the damage could have already been done. We did finish off April with 2 wins, a draw, but a loss 3-0 against Fulham means I was very worried about our potential relegation. But luckily enough for us, we had done just enough. We were actually 5 points clear of relegation, as Oxford United, Blackburn Rovers and Huddersfield were all somehow worse than us. We managed to keep our Championship position, and we are now 21st in the Championship, and it was a very tough, rough and difficult season. It has, however, worked absolute wonders for us financially, as we now have £4.7 million in the bank without making any significant sales. I mean, budget-wise, we still have negative £1,000 in wage budget, but that doesn't mean that we are spending a lot of money. We are 3 times spending less than 23rd place Barnsley, and Fulham are spending £87 million per annum. We are spending 4. So they're about 2,000 times spending more money than us. If we're ever to compete in this league with this god-awful, ridiculous tactic, which at this point is driving me insane, we are going to have to work some absolute wonders. Now, this season's breakout star was actually very surprising to me. It was Amari Benjamin, and I say it's surprising because I didn't mention him earlier on in this video, but he was signed this season. He is now worth £5.4 million, and he is outrageously good in the FM match engine. 16 acceleration, 14 pace, 13 composure, 12 finishing, while being extremely consistent is literally all you need to worry about. He grabbed 16 goals and 9 assists this season, being outscored by our Ethan Wheatley, who has 21 goal contributions and is doing very, very well. His 6'1" is coming in hand a lot. George Urphy, 12 goals, 8 assists, with Donald McElhenney off the bench grabbing 10 and 2. 17 assists for Asher Agimbone off that left wing is incredible, while Nicky Raines also grabbing 12. Our best player this season was Ethan Wheatley, and second up was Nicky Raines, both coming through the Manchester United Academy. And my God, could they have done with them? Because despite having this pretty ridiculous side, while in 2030 having Joshua Zirkzee, Marcus Rashford and Mason Mount seems incredibly unrealistic in real life, it is the current side they have got, with De Ligt still there, Cobby still there, Malacia still there. Last season, they were actually relegated down to the Championship. So we were 1 year away from facing up against Manchester United in the Championship. They came 18th on 38 points. And while they, of course, absolutely blew the league away, getting 101 points in the Championship in 2029, I simply can't believe the fact that United, with Rashford and De Ligt and Kobbie Mainoo, we're a Championship side. I think it's safe to say that life under Ruben Amorim hasn't really gone very well. They ended up getting Nick Cox, Julian Nagelsmann, Nick Cox, Roberto De Zerbi, Nick Cox, and then Simone Inzaghi, who actually managed them in the Championship, got them promoted, and they are now sitting 3rd in the Premier League. I hope my club is back. Marcus Rashford's top goal scorer is mental because he's now actually Aston Villa in real life. But I can't believe that United actually got relegated to the Championship. We could have quite literally played them this season if they didn't get promoted. That is mental to me. And the fact that our squad is built up a lot as well of them United youth academy players is absolutely hilarious. But anyway, enough about them. Let's get into season 8 and our second in Championship football. Now this season we had our biggest ever sale. £900,000. Mr. Edvard Pettersson has left to Hull City. After joining on a free contract, he was pretty good last season, playing 45 games, but raising £1 million, we're never going to turn that down, especially still at this point. Which meant more free agent signings, all using the same scouting methods. Number 1 is Aboudan Garba coming in from Arsenal as a fantastic central attacking midfielder on a free contract worth already £7.5 million. Alfie Gilchrist, a centre-back released from Chelsea, who is great defensively with great leadership. Reece Pollington is a centre-back coming in, a Welshman who looks very good defensively as well. Michael Obafemi, a natural Championship goal scorer. He never quite manages to do it in the Premier League, but in the Championship, he is normally absolutely lights out. Jimmy Dunn, one of my favourite players in real life, as a partially QPR fan as well. Jimmy Dunn is an absolute legend, and he's now at Altrincham. Patrick Kelly joining the club as a central midfielder, and Kobe Barber joining as a right winger. Interestingly enough as well, Jimmy Dunn did actually come through the Manchester United Academy. So another Manchester player here at the club. We have Ethan Wheatley and Amari Benjamin up front. Agimbone, Rains and Garber as our central attacking midfielder free. Kelly and Collier in DM. Samuel Dunn, Pocklington and Billy Terrell in goal. Let's see if we can upset the odds and do something wild in the Championship. My God, that was worse than expected. 44 points, 21st place. After the signings we just made, I was very, very hopeful of this season being a very, very good season. But that's not to be the case. We survived by a singular point ahead of MK Dons. And despite Ethan Wheatley being the joint second top goal scorer on 20 goals, we are quite some way off promotion. And despite financially still being in this complete and utter mess, we still have no brand new stadium yet. I don't quite know when it's coming. I hope it comes soon because we need to increase this capacity up to at least 15 to 20k. Our two best players this season were, no surprise, the two goal scorers, Ethan Wheatley and Benjamin, both grabbing a 7. New signing Abidoban Garba was great this season with 18 goal contributions. Could be someone I look to offload for £6 million. Same goes with Michael Obafemi. He grabbed 17 as the backup striker, and that value is way too much for that. Toby Collier, another decent season worth £8 million. Could be someone to cash in on, but overall, a bit of a nothing season. I'm going to go straight into season 9. Well, we have raised some very decent money. £400,000 on Donald McElhenney and £2 million on Michael Obafemi joining German side Magdeburg. We now had a little bit of money to spend. So of course we didn't. We just brought in free agents once again. Trust me, it is the best way. I've not used a single loan signing. I spent £6,000, I believe, in this whole rebuild on bringing in Damani Mella. That is literally it. And we are still now a decent Championship side. The signing of Tom James looks like a really good one from Burnley with electric speed. I'm hoping this guy can just break the match engine. Evan Terrell is a decent centre-back joined from Aston Villa. Mohamed Onovo has joined from Tottenham Hotspur, where he's actually already got 3 appearances for them at 22 years of age. Zach Awe joins in the end as a very decent centre-back option. And our final signing is 23-year-old Nigerian Isaiah Johnson, signed from Plateau United in Nigeria. With that signing coming solely from my youth appearances, at least one signing from the scouting methods. Now, the team we've got seems to be pretty set. Only the centre-mid signing of Johnson changes in the starting lineup, with Samuel, Boot, Pocklington, Terrell, Collier, Johnson, Agambone, Garber, Rains, Benjamin and Wheatley being our best team. I'm really struggling to take this team to the next level, and all I can really hope for with the current financial position is that due to the age of the squad being, having no one above 27 and most of it being in the middle 20s, that some of them just have breakout seasons and turn into absolute superstars. The Championship this season consists of Wolves, Fulham, West Ham United, Ipswich, some huge Premier League clubs, and we are 250 to 1 to get promoted. And you will now notice that Salford are also a Championship side. So if we get relegated, or if Salford finish above us, we drop to the 4th best side in Greater Manchester, which is not the plan for this rebuild. And what it looks like from the start of our season, relegation might not be a worry. We have started in electric form, losing to Middlesbrough and losing to Fulham in September. Other than that, a whole bunch of wins and just 2 draws. The rest of our form through October and November was fairly decent, but our season nearly got completely derailed in December. But with our second half of the season form being the way it was good enough to secure Altrincham a playoff spot in the championships. And our first leg be against none other than London Giants, West Ham United, where Tom James finds Ethan Wheatley in 12 minutes to make it 1-0 before Toby Collier steps up to make it 2. In the second leg, we got absolutely battered by West Ham United by an own goal in the second minute and a 98th minute winner in the end for Tom James, as the game was 4-4 on aggregate, gives us the victory as we are heading to the final of the playoffs. I mean, this 98th minute drama is something you just don't see. The goalkeeper's in a mess. James has poked it in, and Altrincham are heading to the final of the championship playoffs. And this game, believe it or not, is dubbed as one of the biggest rewards in football as a whole. You win this, you get £80 million and rights to join the Premier League. Nicky Raines scores in 8 minutes to make it 1-0, and in the 69th minute, Agimbone whips it in, and Ethan Wheatley heads home as Altrincham run away as 2-0 winners and are promoted to the Premier League. And I simply cannot believe it. We got 5th round in the FA Cup by Crystal Palace, but overall, a Premier League side. 78 points is a very decent points tally. Derby County on 101 win the title. Ipswich in second, but Altrincham are Premier League. I mentioned at the start of this season, I needed players to step up given their age profile, and that's exactly what happened. Ethan Wheatley, a 7.44 average rating, grabbed 32 goals and 9 assists, and has progressed into a dangerous striker. Now worth 18 million because we are now a Premier League side. He is simply fantastic. Benjamin, 39 goal contributions. The Welshman is an absolute demon on this game. Tom James, 39 goal contributions, a fantastic free agent signing. Garber, 27. Nicky Raines, 19. Agimbone, 20. We have built a very good side. And financially, while things right now are in the red, we're about to become super mega rich. That debt is getting cleared off. We have £25 million in transfer budget. We only are spending £194,000 in our wage budget this season. Compared to someone like Fulham, who are spending 91, we are only above Salford City. Salford finishing in 20th place, staying safe in the championship. But us, with a £9.2 million budget, have been promoted to the Premier League. And you will have to find out exactly how that journey goes in the next episode of this, as we have now turned Altrincham into a Premier League club. I wanted to do 2 separate videos so I could go a lot more in depth. Next time out, we'll be talking about how we are scouting the side to turn Altrincham from a Premier League team to the Champions League winners. That'll all happen next time out. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and I'll speak to you next time. Altrincham FC are the closest professional non-league club to my team, Manchester United, and today we are looking to take Altrincham to Champions League winners. Now, we already sit in the Premier League after winning the Championship last season with some of United's former Youth Academy players like Ethan Wheatley and Toby Collier, but now it's time to come out of their shadow and become the biggest team in Greater Manager. So welcome to turning Altrincham FC into Champions League winners. We left the first part of this 2-part series as Altrincham beat Sunderland in the playoff finals, finishing 5th in the Championship in our 3rd season here and our 9th season into football here in the FM universe. The winning goal coming from Manchester United Academy graduate Ethan Wheatley. But today's the big step. We have got Altrincham to being a Premier League club, even though we were predicted to come 24th in the media prediction for the Championship. And if you haven't heard already, we are using a tactic created by my girlfriend. Now, she got a lot of plaudits in the last episode that she is basically a new Pep Guardiola for this absolutely mental 3-2-3-2 system, which actually plays in a 2-1-2-3-2 system due to the libero in the middle of the defence. Now, our goal here with Altrincham is to survive. We have negative £3 million in the bank, and the board have given us a grand total of £25 million in transfer budget. There is a brand new stadium which has now been built. It is the Phil Parkinson Park, which is an absolute joke how it's not called the Kempi XI Arena, because we've got this club from the National League to the Championship in 9 seasons. I mean, we have worked absolute wonders, more than Phil Parkinson had ever done, but nevertheless, we are now taking them into the Premier League. We have got a bunch of money to sign, and throughout today, I'm going to show you my new favourite method of signing hidden regens in an FM24 save. If you haven't already been and seen episode 1, it is a 52-minute video of exactly how you can take a non-league club to the Premier League and a step-by-step guide showing you exactly what I've done. I fully recommend going over there and watching that one and then coming along this journey as we take Altrincham to Champions League winners. Now, throughout this rebuild, the most amount of money we have spent is 6.25k on Damani Mella back in our second season in this rebuild. And today, we aren't going to rise that dramatically. We're going to spend just 1.5 million in our goal into becoming a Premier League side in Gavin Bazunu. Coming in from Burnley, he is a top tier goalkeeper at 30 years of age. We know how good this guy can be. He hasn't quite hit his prime as we are in now season number 10 in this rebuild, but hopefully he can keep the ball out of the back of the net. And if you didn't see part 1, we concede a lot of shots, and we normally concede about 120 goals a season, but we score about 170, which means it's amazing fun. But in terms of the rest of the signings, I have stuck to our free agent principle. As mentioned, our only other signing was £6,000 of Damani Mella. So first up, it's Zane Blake joining from Nottingham Forest. Actually looks like a really good Premier League quality striker / winger. Great finishing, great determination, and great speed at just 24 years of age. Is a real life person as well, so pretty awesome to see Zane Blake in the team for us. Alessio Fortino is a regen, a free agent signed from Napoli. Ibane Boat is next up, a free agent signed from, I don't believe we actually know where Ibane Boat was previously. He was at Cardiff. He obviously starts out at Portsmouth and has had a decent career throughout the Championship and League One. And believe it or not, we're going to take him into the Premier League. Bjorn Hardley is the man I'm signing up next. This guy, again, came through the Manchester United Academy, but has outrageous physical stats, great determination, and brilliant defending as well. David Skelton is up next, a very pacey right winger. Tom Woodhouse, the next, a decent English striker. And finally, it's Jacob Brown coming in to purely be a rotational option. This guy wasn't good enough for Luton in the Premier League in the 23-24 season, so I don't know why I think he'd be good enough for Altrincham in the 31-32 season, but nevertheless, he's here, and this is the Altrincham side. We have Gavin Bazunu in goal with Bjorn Hardley, Ibane Boat, and Pocklington as our back three. In DM, we have Fortino and Aberdeen Garber, the previous signing from Arsenal in midfield. Zane Blake goes on to the left wing. Nicky Rains also through the United Academy on the right wing, with Tom James in cam and Ethan Wheatley and Omari Benjamin taking up these striking positions here as we go in to a Premier League season where, I'm going to be honest, I expect to get absolutely battered. We are 1,000 to 1 to win the league. The next is 350 to 1 Derby County. Financially, I'm not sure we're ready for this at all. We've got £5 million in the bank, and there's a reason I only spend £1.5 million in transfer budget, because I actually believe the best thing for the club would be parachute payments and getting relegated down to the Championship. Now, in no way am I saying I'm going to throw this season, but if we can get relegated and keep our job, I would actually be over the moon, because we can then really take this club into the next step with a full season of Premier League money, which is 80 million, and then the parachute payments of another 80 million. And as mentioned, finances wise, we've never got above 4 million in the bank. So £160 million to take Altrincham to the next step sounds like the ideal thing to happen. But let's see if we can somehow defy the odds and stay up in the Premier League. We put up the fight of all fights this season, and it started off as a complete baptism of fire with 12 goals conceded in our opening 3 games to Liverpool, Manchester City and Tottenham Hotspur. But as we went through the season, things really weren't that bad. As mentioned, we were going to concede a lot of goals, but surprisingly enough, there was a decent few victories in there as well. The main thing we need to stay in the Premier League is to have someone that is an absolute superstar, scoring goal after goal, and Ethan Wheatley is that man. He scored 3 minutes in against Southampton to give us a 1-goal lead, and again in the 14th minute, just showing his goal-scoring prowess in this difficult victory. In fact, he grabbed a total of 22 goals in the Premier League alone this season. And I mean, since he's joined us from Middlesbrough, he's scored 117 goals in 197 games. But was it enough to keep us in the Premier League this year? And when it came all the way down to the final day of the season, where we actually get relegated. On 26 points, we were level with Leicester on a negative 60 goal difference. And on the final day of the season, we lose 4-2 to Southampton in the opposite leg to what I just showed you. Well, Leicester, well, they drew to Everton and got that final point to give them safety. And as you can tell, I'm not angry. As mentioned, I didn't think this was the worst thing that could happen. And already at the end of this season, we have £47 million in the bank. And you can just see the graph looks completely and utterly ridiculous, the amount of money we get for being in the Premier League. We have cleared off all of that debt since building our brand new stadium. And I genuinely think we could be on to bigger and better things. I've actually just realised this is now a new stadium. This is the Tough Sheet Community Stadium, which holds 29,000 people to come and watch Altrincham play. Now Championship football, but a third new stadium in one career is absolutely mental. And it's all down to because we were in the Premier League and we've been relegated and we've got the money. Now, Ethan Wheatley was by far and away the best player in this side with a 7.19 and of course scoring all of them goals. But there was some other decent players in here like Zane Blake, Amari Benjamin, Tom Woodhouse, Mohamed Anovu, Abidou Garba and Tom James, who grabbed 12 assists as well. But it is now time to rebuild. But we have got a substantial amount of money compared to what we are used to. £17 million in the transfer budget. And it's now time to rebuild Altrincham into what we should have been when we got promoted, the best side in the Championship. And we are now going to move on to the scouting method of how I'm going to bring players in for pretty much the rest of this rebuild. And we are going to do a full breakdown in a couple of days' time, showing you guys exactly how to implement this, how to identify players. And trust me, it is going to change the way you play Football Manager in the future when you're trying to find them hidden regens. We're going to be using a method of using international youth appearances and international appearances and simply going through every single nation you think there could be some decent players in and having an in-depth look at all the players that are there. As mentioned, a full in-depth video is going to come out on exactly how to do that and identify these players in a couple of days' time. You can see from our shortlist just some of them that we haven't quite gone for, either due to value or to not quite being good enough. I mean, some of them are really good, and these haven't quite made it into our team. A team we've spent just £4.5 million on and completely rebuilt. Our first signing is the £1.7 million signing of Sebastian Hall, coming in from Melbourne City. He already has a value of £39 million, just showing how good this method is. You have to be careful in England because of your ESC slots. Sadly, Australia isn't quite a nation which gets you a guaranteed work permit. So Sebastian Hall has got one of them slots, but let's move on to some players that don't need them. Our 850k brand new centre-back in Roger Duarte, who has 15 caps for Costa Rica at 18 years of age, while having extreme consistency. What a bargain that is. And well, if you thought that was a bargain, this is actually one of my favourite signings in the whole rest of this rebuild, is Yanis Ziane, coming in from USM Alger, where he's played 107 games before being 19 years of age. He has 12 caps for the Algerian national team, looks absolutely fantastic and has extreme consistency and cost us just £350,000. Next up, a signing from Haroya AC is a very quick Guinean winger who cost us £30,000 while having extreme consistency and love of big matches. The free agent signing of Kenjiro Tsunoda is up next. He has extreme determination, great physicals, and brilliant mental and technical attributes. And the final signing using this method is Matej Marinic, a Slovenian striker signed from Koper for just over £1 million. Again, consistent, good finishing and composure with decent speed. He's going to be a great backup to Ethan Wheatley. Our two other signings were loan signing Ian Davidson coming in from Coventry City, and the free agent goalkeeper of Junior Godwin coming in from Chelsea. Now, this guy is predicted a 2-star current ability by our scouts, and I'm looking him in to be our goalkeeper for the rest of this season, showing once again why I do not trust the scouting star ratings. This guy has 16 area reach, 16 jumping reach, 17 determination, is consistent, he likes big matches, he's got a fairly determined personality, and is going to be absolutely fantastic. We have completely rebuilt our team for £4.7 million, and Altrincham are now ready to take on the championship, led by Ethan Wheatley and Amari Benjamin. The three behind them, Zane Blake, Tom James and Mohamed Anovo. Two midfielders of Fortino and Hall, with Ziyane, Duarte, Bowat and Godwin in goal. And my favourite thing about this relegation, because I wanted the relegation, was now we have £82 million in our overall bank. And Altrincham, we're super rich. Even the game thinks so. And I think we are ready to take the championship by storm and return to the Premier League in a much better position. And well, yeah, I'm not going to waste too much time. We absolutely smashed it in the championship, finishing top of the table on 83 points and making Altrincham championship winners. The top two average ratings, Ethan Wheatley and Amari Benjamin. Amari Benjamin with the second most goals in the league. Assist-wise, Zane Blake, Tom James were right up there. And yellow cards, we love to see it. Roger Duarte with 44 games and a whole bunch of 17 yellow cards. That is my centre-back. Financially, of course, being out of the Premier League and having the higher wage budget we do now have, we did drop down to £50 million in the bank, and the board have given us just £6 million to go and spend on 104k in wage budget. Now, that's partly because I've already started the transfer dealings. Amari Benjamin is leaving the club and joining Al Riyadh for £14 million. Now, he did just grab 36 goal contributions in 41 games, but I think I've done a pretty good job of replacing him, and I've spent a fair bit of money to do it as well. I've brought in Rodrigo Braz from Braga. He's a 5-star player with ridiculous stats who was willing to join us. Now, I found him because obviously he's Portuguese and has caps already, but to be honest, if anyone doesn't know about him in the world of football at this stage, what are you doing? He is a wonder kid. He is either-footed. He did cost me £38 million, but I think we might have signed the best striker in the game at just 20 years of age. So for the rest of the signings, we only spent £4 million and once again brought in some absolute superstars. Yao Asibo is our first, a Ghanaian centre-back, central attack midfielder. I'm not too sure what his best position is, but he has electric speed, he's great defensively, he's great mentally, he has 20 caps for Ghana. We were signing from Benfica, and he's cost us 750k. I mean, I don't understand how these players are so cheap, but we are getting some super bargains. And next up was a loan signing from Inter Milan, as they pipped us to the post to bring in Ibrahim Assar from Salento. We have brought him to the club. He is a Senegalese centre-back, as I said, on loan from Inter Milan. 950k is what we are spending on him. He looks absolutely fantastic, and he's going to be a really top-tier centre-back for us. Next up is Jack Page, a free agent signing brought in from West Ham United, who has fantastic mental stats and extreme consistency. Before signing Gabriel Noah on a free agent contract from Colombe Sportive, on a free contract from Cameroon, where he has grabbed 20 goals in the last 2 seasons. He's gone straight out on loan to Young Boys, as we couldn't give him a work permit, and I did want to allocate him an ESC spot. He's already worth £17 million. We are like the new Chelsea. We are bringing in wonder kids from all over the world, sending them out on loan, and if I sell this guy for literally £1,000, it was a massive dub. So you'll see throughout this rebuild, we're going to make a lot of sales as well. And my final signing is another 3-agent contract in Keane Kinsella, coming in from Aston Villa. I can't believe they've got rid of him. 14 finishing, 14 composure, great physical stats, 16 off the ball, consistent, likes big matches. just hasn't quite done it at Villa over the last 2 seasons. In fact, since 2028, when they signed him from Manchester City, his best season's been in League One, scoring 12 goals, or last season the Championship for Blackburn, 13 goals in 37. I think he is fantastic, and in our system is going to be absolutely broken. But we do have some sad news to finish this off. A 30-year-old Toby Collier has left Altrincham after 296 games for the club. He has gone to Zaragoza for £150,000. He joined us in League 2 and was a dominating player all the way until we got to the Premier League. Last season, didn't play any games for us, so we have sold him to Zaragoza. But a club legend for sure, Toby Collier, has left the club. And well, this is our new look side, and yes, it looks very, very different, to the point where even Ethan Wheatley is technically now on the bench, because I believe Keane Kinsella is going to be better than him. Rodrigo Braz is his strike partner. What a player he is going to be for us. Zane Blake on the left, Tom James on the right, Mohamed Onovo and Cam. Page and Hall in midfield is absolutely fantastic. And a great sort of pair for each other. Page, definitely the more ball-winning player. Hall, the creative outlet. Sarr, Ziane and Sibo make up our 3. And Junior Godwin, who was absolutely fantastic last season, by the way, is our goalkeeper going into the Premier League. He grabbed a 7.02 average rating, despite conceding 94 goals. As mentioned, we concede a lot of goals in this tactic. Still grabbing a 7.02 probably just shows you how many shots this guy faced. Now, of course, once again, we are bottom of the league in terms of the media prediction, 1,000-1. But I do believe now we are in a much, much stronger place than we were just a couple of seasons ago in the Premier League. Financially, we are much better off. Our squad is much better off. The value in our squad is so much better off. I mean, Yao Sibo, already worth 65 million after being signed for 750k, is absolutely mental. And I will just show you, because I know people won't believe me in terms of the game status. There is no in-game editor at all in this save. We are just using the scouting method that, again, I will show you properly in a couple of days, and it works. An absolute treat. I mean, the amount of superstars we have signed is ridiculous. Let's get involved to this Premier League season and see if we can survive this time around. Well, I tell you what, Rodrigo Braz makes me feel physically sick. He is one of the best strikers I have ever used on a Football Manager, and scored 24 goals in the Premier League this year. He was partnered by Sean Kinsella as well, who grabbed 13 and 9 assists as our strike partnership got us Premier League safety. Absolute massive dub. You can see here from the league positions as well, we actually were safe. I don't actually think we ever dropped into the relegation zone. We did for a game week and a few game weeks here as well. But to be honest, the whole second half of the season, we were safe, and we finished 5 points above Southampton, a whole bunch against Leicester and Coventry City. But Rodrigo Braz, what a signing we have made. Now, he is already asking to leave the club. He wanted us to be strengthened a lot. Of course, when you're a 5-star, world-class Portuguese goal-scoring striker, you don't really want to be joining Altrincham, so I did have to give him a lot of money. I did also have to give him a release clause, though, of £81 million, which, considering he's just had that season in the Premier League, grabbing a 7.31, I wouldn't be surprised if he goes. But, I mean, again, what we've just done here has made Altrincham a super powerhouse side in the space of 2 seasons, and financially, we are mega rich, and we have got some players which we could sell for stupid money. Even Gabriel Noah, who was just out on loan at Young Boys, played 42 games, got 14 goals, and is worth £12 million. Remember, we got this guy for free on a contract from a Cameroonian club, Colombe Sportive, and he's gone out to the Swiss top division and absolutely smashed it. So I think we're going to sell this guy and take our profit while we can. And in terms of the rest of them, I mean, Yao Sibo, 20 games this season, a 6.7. Zane Blake, worth 45 million, 14 goal contributions this season. Yanis Ziane, 6.72. Kinsella, of course, fantastic. Duarte, worth £30 million at 20 years of age. Fantastic. Junior Godwin, once again, 40 games, a 6.96. Again, would have conceded 95 goals in 36 games. But his stats are so good, and I just knew a player with this well-rounded of stats would be great for this team. One thing I haven't done so far with this tactic is edit anything from when we were a non-league club. And now that we are a Premier League club, I am going to go through and make some changes to this tactic. I'm going to keep the complete same system, the exact same player roles, etc. But we're now no longer going to be like a pump the ball long and be disciplined side. I think we're now at a level where we are building a very strong team and we can actually take the game to people. So let's make some new transfers, sell some players that haven't quite worked out, and build an improved version of the 3-2-3-2. Now, our first order of business was to bring Ibrahim Assar in on a permanent deal after joining Inter Milan a few seasons ago for 235k. We have bit the bullet after last season and signed him for £6 million because, to be honest, he is very, very good and I wanted to see him back in an Altrincham kit, this time on a permanent basis. I only made 2 other signings and this one cost me 58k. Signed from Lada Bloslav, we have a Czech striker who has 10 caps for them with 16 finishing, 19 determination, ridiculous physical stats, extreme consistency, one of the best traits you can get of placing shots, and as I said, cost £58,000. This scouting method genuinely might be the most broken thing I've ever seen. And to cap it off, we have a brand new goalkeeper also joining the club. It is Thokozani Tshwane coming in as a South African goalkeeper from Sundowns FC. He played 53 games there, conceded 41 goals and cost us £500,000, despite the last 2 seasons grabbing a 7.93 and 7.61. He is their first team goalkeeper with 6 caps. He has got 14 area reach, 15 jumping reach, 16 one-on-ones, 16 reflexes, and is consistent. Also having 15 determination. Another absolutely unbelievable signing. My next signing is a Welsh centre-back in Brandon Rees joining from Liverpool. We decided we needed to bring a bit of homegrown talent into the club as well, and Brandon is that guy. Next up is the £2.8 million signing of Jonas Andre Model coming in from Rosenborg. And oh my God, what a signing we have got here. Fantastic technicals, fantastic mentals, fantastic physical stats. 20 years of age, 11 caps, 1 goal, cost us £2.5 million. Apologies if I just said that we only made 3 signings this summer. I clicked onto the next page and there was more signings. So if I have said that and it wasn't cut out, I apologise. Jonas Andre Modovo is our next signing, already worth 39 million, by the way. Before going quite big on a signing, because I think we needed a superstar libero to join the club, it is Hassan Bakir. He can play all the way across the defence and in central defence midfield, and has cost us £14 million from Toulouse. Mauricio Rodriguez is my next signing, a winger joined from Mongas SC in Ecuador. I've sent him straight out on loan to Troyes in France. This guy has been unbelievable since joining Mongas from Caracas, and is already worth £6 million. Is got consistency, likes big matches, and is going to be very good for us, even just to make a few £1 million. Before our actual final signing in, Jonathan Cardenio signed from AC Milan. Now, we were actually late on this guy as he went to El Nacional and eventually joined AC Milan last season for £1.8 million. We have spent an extra £6 million to bring him in, but he looks absolutely brilliant. In terms of outgoings, there wasn't many. Just the 2, to be honest, in Garba joining Cadiz and Alessio Fortino joining Cadiz for £2.4 million. Again, financially, this is super mega rich for where we have been in previous years. £40 million in the bank. Our wage budget, we are now spending £1 million a week, which is very different to our, 650k to get promoted from League One. So we are now spending a lot of money, but the squad we've built, I mean, it's absolutely fantastic. Kinsella and Rodrigo Braz are our 2 strikers. Blake, Model and Cadeno make up the 3 in behind. Page and Sibo are going to go into midfield with Bakir, Sar, Ziane and Tshwane making up the defence. We have got a fantastic squad with a whole bunch of different nations in it. And again, you have to be a little bit clever because we are going to get to a point where we are going to be in Europe and our team could be built full of a bunch of players that don't fit the correct registration rules. So that's why we're making signings like Brandon Rees and Jack Page and Zane Blake, just to keep that registration rules going on. In terms of homegrown players, that's rough. This squad is not built homegrown players at all. In fact, we are now slowly building the club up. We have 2.5-star training facilities and 2.5-star youth facilities and 3.5-star in youth recruitment. That's a big upgrade from when I last showed you, I believe. But they are really not very good at improving these, no matter how much I ask and no matter how much the owner loves the club. They will always love keeping money in the bank more than improving the facilities, which is very frustrating. I have just noticed as well, we've moved back to the Phil Parkinson Park. I don't quite know why, and I can't quite see why we went to a new stadium with 30k in it for one season. Very, very odd. But the Phil Parkinson Park, well, it's still ours. Now, this is the first season out of this whole rebuild where I will mention the 2 cups, because we actually done quite well before getting knocked out in both of them against fairly big sides. A 2-1 loss here to Chelsea and losing to eventual winners of the Carabao Cup, Liverpool, in the 4th round. 5th and 4th round is about as good as it's got recently, and in terms of the Premier League, it is as good as it has been recently. We finished in 14th place on 36 points and a very, very decent season. Now, this middle gap of the rebuild, I am going to speed things up just a little bit because, to be honest, we're just signing lots and lots of wonder kids and finishing mid-table season on season on season, eventually building an absolute super team. We are still going to touch on the players that we do sign. Rodrigo Braz and Jonas Andre Model were our 2 top goal scorers this season. Remember, Model was signed for just £2.5 million from Rosenborg and has just grabbed 16 goals and 4 assists for us and is now worth 42 million. This scout method is just an absolute joke. The rest of the team is progressing very, very well. I do have now think we have got a few too many players that aren't quite going to make it, and it's time to maybe sell a few and bring some new players in. Financially, £80 million in the bank, and we are now a pretty rich team in terms of spending money as well. £48 million in transfer budget, 33k in wage budget, but it's now time to speed run to a point where we're actually challenging for European competitions. For season number 14, we made the executive decision to bring in a new superstar striker next to Rodrigo Braz, his Portuguese mate, Brahima Diallo, who grabbed 21 goals in his first year for the club. We also signed Croatian centre-back Mislav Grujic, Mustafa Kamel, the Egyptian goalkeeper from Future, Adrian Mihalescu, the Romanian central midfielder from University Cracovia for £4.4 million, and this guy is an absolute joke. Gabriel Dejanova, a Bulgarian striker from Lokomotiv Plovdiv for 1.4 million, with that finishing and composure and ridiculous speed. Aldin Sabanovic was up next. For £1 million, we signed him from Sarajevo. Jean Carlos Ramirez was a striker we signed from Venezuela. And Abdullah Al Ghamdi is a Algerian central midfielder we signed from CS Constantine. Now, this season was the first year where we started to offload some players that didn't quite work out. So Mauricio Rodriguez left to Augsburg, Mikel Holenak left to Heidenheim, Gabriel Noah left to Montpellier, and Sebastian Hall had left the club to Ipswich Town. We raised £15 million there, and all of them signings were dirt cheap, including Holenak, who cost us just 58k one season ago. With our brand new strike partnership and our new superstar signings, we were an absolute force to be reckoned with. Brahim Diallo grabbed an opening goal in a 4-0 demolition of Coventry City, a club which have actually come a long way since the start of this rebuild. But with this game, we just showed the quality we now had up front. Braz and Giallo linking up constantly to absolutely batter teams. And I wanted to show you Mihalescu as well in the match engine, because that guy, well, he's an absolute demon. Tom James scored to make it 3-0 there, and we are going to grab a 4th from the spot from that man, Braz. This season was our best yet by far, securing 47 points in the Premier League with a negative 15 goal difference, but now up to 12th place in the league. And despite a really rough patch of form to finish the season, we were just 10 points away from getting our first year in European football. So that was our clear goal for season number 15. But that wasn't helped at all by Rodrigo Braz having his release clause triggered by Newcastle United. However, we did just raise £81 million, and last season we kind of brought in the replacement in Giallo, as I thought he was going to go a year prior. The signing I've made to replace him is an absolute bargain. £6.7 million Argentinian striker Valentin Torres from Independiente. And if we couldn't get goals from our two strikers, which to be honest always happens, we can always look to our right wing new signing Gustav Søgaard, a Danish right winger who looks absolutely brilliant at 19 years of age. We also made a whole host of other signings like Faustino Portela from Bologna. We also made Vasilas Konstantinos, a Greek central midfielder who looks incredibly well-rounded to sit next to Mihalescu. Stian Eile was our next one from Rosenborg. After having success with the right winger, we wanted to see if the centre-back could also do bits. Pavel Jozwiak was signed from Legia Warsaw as a centre-back. Ernest Indeman Hule is a left winger we have signed. He did cost us £1.7 million and looks fantastic. And finally, Andreas Medina, another striker, £1.7 million. With these outrageous stats, this could be a very good season. While the team did look very different without our superstar Rodrigo Braz, I do now feel we have a much more well-rounded team with a fantastic midfield pivot of Konstas and Mihalescu, with a brilliant winger duo of Model and Idahomule, and actually a very strong strike partnership with Torres and Giallo, who again both complement each other incredibly well. And for this season, it was the first time we saw a real turnaround in our form. As a club, it was clear to see we had grown to the next level and were no longer a team battling relegation. We were even beating some of the modern day giants Liverpool and Manchester United 4-2, and all the goals were coming from our two strikers, Giallo, who grabbed 28, and Valentin Torres, who grabbed 24. While Rodrigo Braz scored just 16 goals for Newcastle as they finished down in 11th place, compared to us finishing up here in 6th place, with a rebuild of Valentin Torres replacing £81 million striker Rodrigo Braz. It's safe to say things have gone pretty darn well for Altrincham as we are playing Europa League football for the first time in 2038. Now, fair play to Newcastle. They must have won the Europa League because they are playing Champions League football next season. But this season, we improved massively. A 21 goal difference, 66 points. And I won't be surprised to see we are the top 3 now in terms of scoring goals. And we are working absolute wonders. Financially, the club is doing better than ever. And the squad, I mean, it's the favourite this squad has ever been for me. We have got superstars galore, all from different nations. And I've got to say, this has been one of the most fun rebuilds I've ever done because it's felt really rewarding to sign players for so cheap and turn them into absolute stars. And well, this time in the FA Cup, we got to the 5th round, knocked out by champions Manchester City, and the quarterfinal of the Carabao Cup, knocked out by eventual Champions League side Liverpool, despite finishing down in 16th place. We are going to be now ready to step up as a club. We are now a European side, and we are now set our eyes on winning the Champions League. Get your comments in down below from here how long you think it's going to take us to become Champions League winners. And well, to be honest, it wasn't exactly the ideal start to making our European journey, as our star player, Yao Sibo, has left the club to join Saudi side Al Ittihad for £25 million. We did, however, find a fantastic replacement and a similar player who can play in lots of different positions in Eugene Savin, the Ukrainian centre-back who was at Celta Vigo, looks absolutely fantastic. He was one of just many signings though, as again, we were using the scouting method to find hidden region wonder kids. Craig McCalabia was the next South African to join from Orlando Pirates. Mauricio Fernandez was a brand new Uruguayan central midfielder who was signed from Defensor Sporting for a measly £1.7 million. And again, he looks absolutely brilliant. With 18 determination, this guy can go very far. Carlo Igor Bassa is another player joining from the Croatian leagues, a central attack midfielder with elite determination and consistency. Braulio Higueras is a Chilean midfielder who is going to battle with a Uruguay midfielder to take our starting central mid position. Slightly further on in his development, but less determined, so we'll see if he can make it. And finally, Stipo Kuruc, another Croatian centre-back, again from Dynamo Zagreb, because they are the Wonder Kid farm on FM. He looks absolutely brilliant, but does lack a little bit of consistency. He has got the Wonder Kid tag, so we'll see if he can develop into one of the best centre-backs in the game. And from all of them signings, it is just Eugene Savin that joins the starting lineup. The rest of the team stays the same. If you can build a team that gets to the Europa League while spending minimal money, well, you might as well keep with that. So it is Torres and Giallo up front with Cedeno in the cam role, Blake and Model on the wings. Blake, the only real life player still in this team in 2038, is pretty cool. Konstas and Milescu in the midfield roles is probably going to be the partnership to win the Champions League. These two are both so young and so good, so I'm looking forward to seeing how they progress. Sarr and Bakir keep up their defensive slots, and as mentioned, Savin goes into that libero role with Tishawale still in goal. For the first time this season, we are no longer the worst team in the league, which is great. We are still 18th, even though last season we finished in 6th. I don't know if having the Europa League football is bringing us down in that season preview a little bit. But mentioning the Europa League, I would like to be very good in this. I would like to think we could at least get to the quarterfinals, semi-finals. You never know, maybe the final, and win it. And pretty soon, I'd like to win either the Carabao Cup or FA Cup as well. I don't want to end this rebuild by being the best team in the world, but never managing to win either the FA Cup or Carabao. Well, about that, the Carabao Cup is going to have to wait, as we got knocked out in the third round to Watford in a 2-0 loss, even though they're a mid-table championship side. But our story in the FA Cup was very different, and you join me here in Wembley against Burnley in the semi-finals of the FA Cup, who were given quite a nice tie, to be honest, but Burnley did not make this game easy. It was 1-1 in just 22 minutes, but a signing from a few years ago, Medina decided this game was going to be his game. He grabbed the assist to kick things off, and he's then going to go and absolutely smash this Burnley side. You can see a great ball there from Bernard, finding Medina in behind to make this game 2-1. And it took all the way to the 78th minute for Medina to grab his second of the game, giving us the 3-1 lead. But Burnley would fight back. In the 87th minute, Etar on the left-hand side whipped it into the back stick. He looked miles offside, but he wasn't. Kojima scores and made it 3-2, and we didn't decide to sit back. That is not the way we play football, and Medina wanted his hat-trick, and he sends us to the final of the FA Cup for the first time in this rebuild, and it was going to be out of either Bournemouth or Arsenal in the final. And I think it's safe to say we are all surprised it is Bournemouth and not Arsenal in the final, which helps us massively. An absolute screamer from our centre-back Sarr to put it in the top corner to give us an early lead in this game before a second comes from the left wing position, eventually dispossessed by Konstas. A great ball into Bernard. A 2-0 victory, and Altrincham are the champions of the oldest competition in England. And that's a pretty good place to be, because it also guarantees us European football for next season. That's if, of course, we need that, because we are, of course, in the Europa League, and in the starting positions, we finished down in 10th place, just 1 point away from getting into the round of 16, but it does mean we've got to do it the hard way and first off play in the knockout playoff round, where we faced up against Italian giants Lazio, and to be honest, we absolutely battered them. In the first leg, we won 4-2 at the Altrincham Stadium, and in the second leg, away from home in Italy, we won 3-0, meaning it was a 7-2 demolition in the first knockout games in our European journey. But next up was Manchester United, and a Manchester United side that still had Kobe Mainoo that we managed to just about draw 3-3 with in the first leg at home. So when we were on our way to Old Trafford, I was expecting to get absolutely battered, but a straight red for Banks gave us more than a fighting chance, and we ended up demolishing Manchester United in a convincing 4-1 victory, meaning Altrincham are on the way to the quarter-finals of the Europa League in our first ever European outing. And we were staying in England for that European affair, this time against Tottenham Hotspur. Zane Blake whipped it into the back stick, and Sebastiano Bernard scored yet another goal for the club, making it 1-0 in 72 minutes. And we actually ran away at the Old T Stadium 2-0 victors as Bernard scored once again. But our journey would come to an abrupt end as Spurs beat us 3-0 in the first leg, and I actually just showed you the second. So we lost 3-2 on aggregate, and our European journey was over. Now, I am aware of this, that I might not have showed you Sebastiano Bernard just yet, and that's because something happened. On the 18th of January, Brahima Diallo left the club to join Bayern Munich for £83 million and played just one game for them in the second half of the season, which really frustrates me. And that is why we have the replacement in Sebastiano Bernard, a Belgian striker who is 6'4" with decent pace, decent finishing, decent composure, and good flair. And you can probably tell, I'm happy that we've got a striker in, but he's not my favourite player. But in January, making signings is tough, so we did have to spend a fair whack to get him. It was £26 million, and he did perform very well this season. A 7.19 in his first season in the Premier League is great, but he's not my typical meta FM striker. I just hope he can do bits in the match engine, just like Diallo and of course the old man Rodrigo Braz could do. Who, by the way, since the last time we sat there and laughed at him for finishing down in 11th place, has just gone ahead with Newcastle United and won the Premier League. A 72-point season, by the way, winning the Premier League is absolutely ridiculous, showing we were actually just 21 points off that Premier League trophy in 51 points, 13th place, 16 wins, 3 draws, 19 losses, a -9 goal difference. Having the Europa League games certainly helped us, and losing Brahima Diallo hurt us quite a lot towards the end of the season as well. We lost the last 5 games against Forest, City, Wolves, United and Fulham, scoring just 2 goals in them 5 games as well, compared to the start of the season where we were scoring a whole bunch more. So a little bit disappointing to lose our star player, and it does certainly impact the team ever so slightly. Now, the fact that Valentin Torres is our star man worries me a little bit. I don't think he's Starman quality. I think he's Premier League winning quality, but I would need someone next to him that gives me more confidence than Bernard. So maybe that's something we look for in the future. Sedano in cam is doing really well. Model on the right wing, the same. His pace is absolutely electric. Zane Blake had a decent season. Konstas and Milishkrescu, as mentioned, is just absolutely fantastic. I'm aware that I've been slagging off Bernard for the last 5 minutes. He did grab a 7.31, and Medina, who he brought in a couple of seasons from Junior for just 1.5 million, did have a much better year this year. He grabbed 10 goals, 8 of them in the FA Cup in just 4 matches, which is absolutely mental. So maybe he is someone to look at for our starting striker position as well. In terms of finances this season, we've got £70 million to spend and £270,000 in wage budget. And of course, winning the FA Cups gives us qualification once again for the Europa League. And this time, I want to win it. Now, one thing that I noticed about our Europa League squad is there wasn't enough homegrown talent to where we could really bring through all of our star players. So this summer, that was my main goal. My first signing was English right winger Ike Akpan from Reading, who is outrageously fast while being 6'2". Next up was my boy Seamus, a central attack midfielder signed from Watford, the club that beat us in the Carabao Cup. He had a fantastic season last year in the Championship, grabbing a 7.07 rating with 16 goal contributions, and this year he's going to be a super cam for us. Archie Gray was my next signing. Yes, it's weird. We're still signing real players in the year 2039. At 33 years of age, Archie Gray has had quite the career, from Spurs to Stuttgart to Milan to Chelsea to Milan and now to Altrincham. He has been a bit of a journeyman in his career. He has got 49 caps for England, and we know how good this guy could be. As a rotational DM at 33, he is going to be brilliant for us, and he has basically got every trait in the book now as well. And someone else that is actually homegrown in nation is Lenny Yoro. Due to joining Manchester United at such a young age and staying there till 2030, he developed the status, so we have signed him from Olympique Marseille for just £12.5 million. His career has actually been very average. He was at Sheffield United, then went to Leeds where he couldn't get many games, went to Burnley, went to Marseille where he seems to have found his feet in Ligue 1, and he's now coming back to the Premier League for £12.5 million. But as mentioned, more of a signing to fit homegrown status. And well, I couldn't do a whole season without signing some bargains. So for £73,000, Jibriel Bar joins us from Generation Foot. Luis Lopez was up next, an Ecuadorian centre-back signed from the Barcelona Ecuador side. He is now worth 36 million and we signed him for just 2. Etienne Thibault is my next from CF Montreal. He is the Canadian national striker. He has 15 finishing, 17 composure, electric speed, and cost us just £6 million. I have loaned him back to Montreal because I don't think we need him for this season, and hopefully he comes back next year as an absolute star. George Mofokeng is another South African player we have signed, this time from Kaizer Chiefs. If you guys aren't signing players from South Africa, I would recommend it highly. They have some of the best wonder kids come through the academy all the time, and they always get catch the South Africa national team. So in your saves, if you're 5, 6, 7 years on, go and look at South Africa's team, look for their wonder kids, pick them up for 575k, especially if they've just had a 30-game season, grabbing a 7.48, and watch them become absolute superstars. And my final signing is possibly the best wonder kid we have ever had at Altrincham. It is Yannick Gross. Coming in from AA Ghent, he is an 18-year-old central attacking midfielder who has 9 caps for the Belgium national team already. He cost us just £17 million, and at 18 years of age scores 10 goals for the AA Ghent side in the top division of Belgium last season. He isn't exactly electrically paced, but he is technically fantastic, and his mentals at 18 are brilliant. He's already worth £92 million, and of course has that wonder kid tag to him as well. I've actually got him listed for loan because I don't want to stunt his development this season, so we'll see if he goes out. If not, he could provide as some fantastic rotation for us this year. Now, I have kept with a pretty much exact same side for this season, other than bringing Lenny Yoro into that right-sided centre-back role for us this season for Altrincham. The rest of the team stays the exact same. I am keeping Bernard for this season as the striker to see how he does next to Valentin Torres. Let's get into the season and see if this time we can win the Europa League. This season's league phase in the Europa League went a whole bunch better than last year. We are skipping that pesky knockout playoff round as we finished on 21 points, a 6-point difference in 8 games with 7 wins and just 1 loss. And this time, the draws were much more favourable. First up was a 6-0 victory over Portuguese sides Vitória, before a 4-3 two-legged affair against Malmo from Sweden in the quarterfinals sent us in to the semis, where we were facing Atletico Madrid. And in the first leg, we drew 1-1, which means we had to come back to England and see if we could somehow take a lead. We did get a lucky goal thanks to an own goal from Rui Silva, but just 10 minutes later, Atletico Madrid levelled up the score at 1-1. Zane Blake then burst on the left-hand side just before the half-time whistle in the 46th minute, finding Stephen Giles in that cam roll, scoring the all-important second in this game. And to be honest, having them English homegrown players was so important because the quality oozed from this side. Zane Blake found Torres to make it 3, and we secured our final position as Zane Blake burst on the left-hand side once again, finding Adrian Mihălescu to make it 4 and sent Altrincham to the Europa League final, where we'd be facing Borussia Dortmund, and there was only 1 goal in this game, and it came from Englishman Stephen Giles with a 180 volley into the top corner, and you can see Altrincham are champions of Europe in an absolutely dominating performance against German giants Borussia Dortmund, as we stuck 24 shots against them compared to their 8 and had 64% possession. And as mentioned, having that homegrown English core helped massively. With Blake, Giles and Akpan being our 3 in cam, with Yoro in centre back, it means there wasn't too many young, sort of not very good players that needed to be registered, as we had 4 players that could start straight away in this side. Now, that didn't sadly help us in retaining our FA Cup trophy, as we actually lost to West Ham United 3-0 in the 4th round. And the Carabao Cup still eludes us as well, as we lost to Sunderland in the 3rd. And while it was another 51-point Premier League season, I was not worried at all. For season number 18, we were going to Champions League football, which means Altrincham are taking a massive next step in our growth. In terms of the club info, we are now a 4-star reputation side, and our training facilities have gone up to 3-star. The estimated value of the club is £1 billion, and we are now actually a bit of a superpower in England. Even though we're not, guaranteeing top 4 season on season, we've shown we can win trophies. We are super mega rich. And now we have the reputation of Champions League football. I genuinely don't think there's any stopping Altrincham from being the top club in the world. So first up this season, there was a whole bunch of outgoings. We raised 81 million in the early part of summer before raising another 98 million pounds. Medina, Bassar, Sedano, Zane Blake, Mikaleba and Barr had all left the club, but we had just raised some serious money. But it's not like us to go absolutely wild. We are going to stick to our principles. Number 1 signing is Mario Starokin, a Bulgarian striker who looks absolutely fantastic. Again, signed from Rosenborg for just £2.8 million. I've loaned him back there because I think for season 19, he could be our starting striker if he continues to grow at this ridiculous rate because he's just 18. This signing is absolutely fantastic. It's Mamadabaru Mariko, signed from Guangzhou in China. He is a Malian international with 11 caps to his name already, and he is absolutely fantastic. He is the perfect winger for this team because obviously we play with just a winger, no fullback, no wing back, no left midfielder, just that left winger. Having someone that can go up and down the pitch and even play in left back if we played that formation is so important. He went through the Academy JMG Mali before joining Guangzhou in China, played 8 games, got an 8 average rating and a release clause of just £3.6 million. I picked him up instantly. He is a wonder kid who is worth over £100 million and is already considered a good Premier League player. That could be the signing of FM history. Bojan Kovacevic was a centre-back I brought in from Augsburg for £10 million. Before signing the striker that I knew we needed, the best striker potentially in world football, Jonas Falk, has joined the club. At 22 years of age, he has 26 games and 14 goals for Denmark. He came through the Copenhagen Academy and last season had his breakout year, 11 goals in 18 games. And these stats are absolutely ridiculous. He's consistent, he's lights out quick, he can finish, he has good determination, great off the ball work, and we might now have our Champions League winning striker. Our final signing this season was Koji Tajescu, a Japanese left winger who I've signed and loaned back out to Yokohama to see if he can develop into a star as well. Another wonder kid, signed for just 6.25 million, 17 goals in 19 games last season. This guy could be an issue if he comes back as a star. So it feels like for the first time in quite a long time, this team is significantly different. Tushawale keeps his goalkeeping position with Bakir, Mofakin and Savin making up the defence. Fernandez and Milescu in midfield with Medel, Giles, Idamule, Falk and Torres as our attackers. I don't imagine Idamule is going to play too many games. I think Mariko is going to get that starting left wing position. We still, of course, have Lenny Yoro and Archie Gray, as well as EK Akpan. Gross wasn't out on loan last season, but did develop very well. Is a goal-scoring genius for Belgium as well, and still scored 3 goals for us last season in 20 games. Only 10 started, 10 off the bench, and a 6.89 at 18. That's not too bad. I think this year, though, he could break out into a star. Obviously, I'm not looking to win the Champions League this season. That would be outrageous, but I would like to give ourselves a decent run. And in the Premier League, for the first time, I would like to actually finish not just top 6. For the first time, I want to finish in the top 4. Now, I thought this would be the case, but Jonas Falk was an absolute issue for all Premier League sides. He had electric speed, but also fantastic dribbling ability, and you can see from this goal exactly what he can do to a team. He grabbed a ridiculous 24 goals this season and got 10 assists with a 7.31 average rating, which meant we weren't relying so heavily on Valentin Torres. He did score 16 goals still and get 10 assists, but as I sort of thought, this guy isn't the star man. He needs to be the understudy, and you can see that from the fact he's got 0 Argentinian caps. He's great for us, but he's not an absolute world star. Someone who very well could be, though, is Mamadabaru Mariko. This season, he grabbed 15 assists in just 14 games while having 26 come off the bench and 6 goals with a 7.12 average rating, and may have single-handedly got us into a European place this season. Our form throughout this rebuild has been pretty ropey. It is very difficult with a 3-2-3-2 to get us to consistently win games. But for the first time this season, we went on a 3-month unbeaten spell with stars like Yannick Gross and Ike Akpan coming into their own, and of course having that superstar in Jonas Volk to also score a whole bunch of goals. That meant that we finally had finished in a Champions League paying place without having to win a competition. We got 71 points this season, 22 wins and just 11 losses. And I think it's safe to say it's not just goals we excelled in. Idamule, Mariko, Akpan, Volk and Torres all had over 10 assists. While it was just Seamus Giles, Torres and Falk that scored more than 10 goals, it was clear to see that this formation, we'd sort of now tweaked a little bit, had started to really work as a powerhouse team. In the Champions League, we finished down in 15th place, which is pretty decent, but it wasn't enough to get us straight in to the round of 16. And sadly, despite winning in the second leg of the knockout playoff round 2-1, we lost 4-3 on aggregate to Villarreal, which meant our Champions League journey was over pretty quick. One person I am very happy for though is Brahima Diallo, who grabbed 30 goals for Bayern Munich this season and won them the Champions League. So it's good to see that this guy has kind of overtaken Rodrigo Braz. I feel like Brags sort of broke my heart moving to another Premier League club, and obviously it stings a little bit that he has gone on to win the Premier League before us. He has just grabbed 34 goals in 45 games for Newcastle, showing our sort of talent identification has been absolutely ridiculous in this rebuild. He is now worth £211 million and is wanted by Barcelona. So it'll be good to see if Braz does move on, if we can potentially have the best striker in the Premier League. And to be honest, I actually think we already do. This guy is an absolute joke and just 23 years old as well. He could turn into such a better player if we play this right. I am very, very happy with this team. I think next season, Mariko comes into that left wing role. I do think Yannick Gross becomes our starting cam. He is progressing really, really well and looks like a superstar. Modell has been a bit quiet in this rebuild so far, dropping down to a 2.5 star. We might need a brand new right winger. I do think our midfield is pretty set with Fernandez and Mihalescu. Mofokeng as a left-sided centre-back is brilliant. Bakir potentially needing to move on from, while Savin is brilliant. And Tushawale, I mean, this guy has been an absolute joke for us. He is now 29 years of age. We signed him for £500,000 and he has had 4 seasons above a 7 average rating in the Premier League. As a £500,000 signing, that is absolutely outrageous. So it's clear that for season 19, we were ready to take that next step, and it was quite easily identifiable the positions we need to improve to make Altrincham the champions of England. Now, I didn't plan on this happening at all, but I have sold Mauricio Fernandez to Everton this season because they just offered us 67 million, rising to 80 million for a guy that got a 6.9 rating last season. And I think we potentially have the players in the squad already, and we can certainly go and identify some players to replace him. So our first signing is Kobbie Mainoo. After 562 games at Manchester United, Mainoo has decided Altrincham is the place that he wants to go to. And the most amazing thing is that in Kobbie Mainoo's illustrious career, where he got relegated from the Premier League with Manchester United, he has won an FA Youth Cup, the Championship, the Champions League, no Carabao Cups, and a World Cup. So he has never won the Premier League with United. And we can confirm that by this completely mid little graph here for Manchester United, who for the last 10 seasons have been effectively a mid-table Premier League side, which absolutely breaks my heart. Which means officially for the first time in this rebuild, we can say we have broken up Manchester United and Manchester City, and Altrincham now sit as the second best side in Greater Manchester, with the goal of chasing down City. A goal that isn't going to be easy, as they are predicted to finish 5th this season. We are predicted to finish down in 12th. Now, there is some more signings this season, but I didn't want to go too wild. As I mentioned, I did kind of believe in this team to go on to be champions anyway. Now, number one was another Northern Irish goalkeeper, this time to come in and be the backup. It just signed from Leeds United to simply fit registration rules. Ryan Dak was my next signing from Newcastle United for £12 million. This guy looks absolutely outrageous. He has 5-star potential, great dribbling, determination and speed, and no one really wanted him. Last season, he played at Burnley, got 14 goals in the Championship. Apologies, just £5 million, not 12 million. And I think he's absolutely brilliant and is going to be a great rotational winger for us. The player that I have signed to replace Fernandez is Jason Gain from Colo Colo in Chile. This guy has got 13 caps for the national team and looks absolutely fantastic, right? Well, he's cost us just £5.75 million and had 3 seasons in a row in Chile, grabbing over a 7.2 average rating. He looks absolutely brilliant and I think is a fantastic replacement for £5 million, considering we just sold Fernandez for 80. And our final signing is Canadian centre-back Gary Newell, who at 18 years of age has 29 caps for Canada. Again, coming from the Montreal Academy. We'll see if he can bring something into this side. And the team we have gone with for this season is Torres and Falk up front, Mariko, Akpan and Giles in cam. But as mentioned, I think Gross will play lots of games. Mielescu and Guane in midfield, with Mofaken, Savin, Bakir and Tushuale making up the goalkeeping positions. I did decide to keep Akpan this season at right wing because his pace is just electric and will break the Football Manager match engine. Sadly, we know that to be true. Koji Tukaseji is absolutely fantastic as well and can play on that right wing. He comes back from his loan spell in 10 days from Yokohama FM, where he has just grabbed 5 goals in 15 games and 6 in 9 in the last season, grabbing an average about a 7.25. So this guy could very easily come into the starting lineup as well. Other than that, I'm very confident in this team's ability to become the best in England. So let's see for season 19 if we can complete the challenge of winning the Champions League and the Premier League with Altrincham before the 20 season mark. Now, before we go any further, can I get a massive like and subscribe that everyone is watching this video, and a Danish flag in the comments if you have got to this point for Jonas Falk. 36 goals and 15 assists in 41 games might be the most outrageous striking position I've ever seen, especially for a tactic that isn't just built for one striker. Our other in Valentin Torres grabbed 20, and Jonas Andre Model played lots of games up front this season, grabbing 28, meaning as a whole, our strikers grabbed nearly 100 goals as a trio. Our form this season was like no other. For the first time, we started the season in electric form. We played Manchester United, Liverpool and Arsenal in our first 3 games. We did lose to Arsenal, but beat United and Liverpool before going on a 3-month unbeaten spell, beating teams like Leeds United, Manchester City, Newcastle United by multiple goals at a time, before of course finally bottling a 2-1 against Crystal Palace. There was an absolutely mental game in January, a 16-goal thriller where we lost 10-6 to Liverpool away from home. Might be the most crazy FM game of all time. I've never had to scroll on both sides to see the amount of goals before, and this is the first team ever. There is 16 goals scored as well in just 36 shots, meaning both keepers just had absolute stinkers. I mean, I say that. Sabanovic for us, who played in goal in this game, grabbed a 5.8, but Therese Sharusta for them conceded 6 and got a 7.1, which is mental. Endrick got a hat-trick. Magmadov Zairanov, who is a Ukrainian winger, grabbed 5. Deverson grabbed a hat-trick. For us, in terms of goals, it was all just solo, which is sad. I actually just completely bottled that. That is key chances. Goals-wise, no one grabbed a hat-trick. I was completely waffling. I mean, that would have added up to 11, which would have been over anyway, so ignore me. I'm completely waffling. Jonas Falk did grab a goal in this game, but a 10-6 loss, I think is important just to highlight this mental tactic. We did then beat Manchester United 5-2, but lost then 4-0 to Southampton. And I was worried that the wheels were falling off this season, but that wasn't the case. We lost 2 games for the whole entire rest of the season, draw 3, and won the remaining 10. And Altrincham Town, for the first time in the club's history, are champions of England and the greatest club in Greater Manchester. Altrincham FC, Premier League winners. That is a massive tick in this rebuild. We have won the FA Cup, we have won the Premier League, and I'm rolling up my sleeves because it's time to see if we can make Altrincham Champions League winners. Now, to kick things off in the league phase, it's not a bad start when you finish in third place behind Chelsea and Real Madrid, is it? So we're straight going on into the round of 16. We were drawn up against a PSG side that was entirely made from regens. Jonas Andre Medel scored 4 goals across the tie as we beat PSG 4-2 on aggregate. In the quarterfinals, we were going back to England to face Everton, and in the first leg, we drew 2-2. But back at the OT Stadium, we absolutely took off. Medel, as a striker, was outrageous in the Champions League, linking up with Falk and Yannick Gross in that cam role. Sagaki had come back from Yokohama, and as that left winger, was outrageous as expected. He grabbed the second in this game. Mielescu found Higueras to find Saseki again to whip it in to the big leaping Medel at the back post to make it 3. And to finish off this tie as a 6-2 victory, Saseki again ran down that left wing position, hit the post, and Falk poked home. We were going to the semi-finals in the Champions League, where we were facing none other than Barcelona, who had a few real-life superstars. Number 1, Max Daumann, who has come through the Arsenal Academy and has ended his way up for 87 million, signing for Barcelona. Number 2 is a 35-year-old retiring Noah Darvic. And finally, a 34-year-old, 102 Spanish capped Lamine Yamal, who looks like an absolute joke. So we knew this one was not going to be easy. And first leg was in front of a 100,000 person crowd at the Nou Camp. Valentin Torres got us off to a great start though, making it 1-0, but Lamine Yamal with a tricky little ball to Gorman tied this game up at 1-1. Suzuki then found a great switch to Ike Akpan on that right wing, who drifted inside and fired an outrageous effort into the top corner to make it 2-1, and we grabbed the third at the Spotify Camp Nou as Medel drove forward, the ball fell to him again, Torres beats his man and fires home for 3-1. Barcevo made the game tight to take back to Altrincham as June ran down the left-hand side, whipped it in. Yamal got the ball once again before finding Darvic in the box for 3-2, meaning back in Manchester, we would just have to draw the game and we were going to the Champions League final. And that is something that doesn't happen a lot here in Altrincham. Drawing games using a 3-2-3-2 formation is basically impossible. So Jakey found Gross to make it 1-0 in 31 minutes, and 60 seconds later we wanted a second. So Jakey again to the left hand side found Valentin Torres to make it 2-0, and before half time the game was wrapped up. We were 3-0 ahead and a 6-2 win on aggregate as Altrincham are going to the Champions League final. Season 19 could be the year where Altrincham do it all. And it really had to be Leeds United in the final. A club that my team, Manchester United, are massive rivals of. And I'm sure Altrincham, if they got to this level, will be rivals of as well. So here's a Manchester versus Yorkshire derby. Can we win the UCL final? Well, just 13 minutes in, Leeds United were going to take the lead. A ball whipped in, bouncing about, and Cespedes scored to make it 1-0 in 13 minutes. We did bounce back in the first half, however. Gross found Giles, back to Gross, eventually finding Valentin Torres in the box to make it 1-1. And we were going to grab a second as well. Rian Dak, the signing from Newcastle, setting it back to Newell before getting in the box, sending it back to that man Stephen Giles to make it 2-1. Could we hold on? No, we couldn't. In the 75th minute, Cespedes ran through once again for cutting the ball back in, and an own goal from Kuralt made it 2-2. In the 90th minute though, Kobe Mainu found Diak to find Stephen Giles, who scored a screamer, and Altrincham were champions of the Champions League, and in 19 seasons, we have built them from non-league nothingness to the champions of Greater Manchester, the champions of the Premier League, and the champions of the Champions League. This has been one of my most enjoyable and best feeling rebuilds we have ever done. I have used a tactic made by my partner to make it even more difficult. I have scouted players from random nations to build a team full of mismatched players that work an absolute dream, and we have won Kobbie Mainoo a Champions League and a Premier League before he heads off to retirement at 37 years of age. What a magical ending. If you did enjoy the Altrincham story, make sure you smash the like button, subscribe to the channel, and I will speak to you guys next time.